Given the financial crisis and all the uncertainty around, LPs are looking for something that makes sense even in this atmosphere. And natural resource productivity and pollution control are two trends that will not be affected by the financial crisis, meaning they will stay for the next decades. And therefore, I think it makes a lot of sense because they are supported by long-standing industrial macroeconomic trends.
In the next session of Parliament, there will be a piece of legislation that will enshrine the Green Investment Banking Statute. Over the next 3 years, it will disburse that first £3 billion. But from 2015, it has the potential to then raise its own money against its own balance sheet.
We're seeing some constrained liquidity, the ability to raise project finance. Lots of the money that goes into the sector in building operating assets comes from the banks, and we had periods during 2009 after the crash where it was very hard to get capital. That eased off a little bit, and I think it was a lot better in 2010 and early 11. But we're starting to see a little bit of constraint coming back there in terms of being able to raise long-term debt.
I think the challenge for the people in this room has been to satisfy primary capital providers that the venture capital and private equity market and means of accessing those opportunities is sufficiently mature to be able to satisfy their requirement for strong risk-adjusted returns.
Basically, renewables are offering the long-term certainty of a revenue stream that other sectors in the power sector aren't doing. You add on top of that renewable energy targets increasingly competitive, it becomes an attractive investment space. But the fundamental reason why it's happening is it's attractive because we got the visibility of revenue streams that other parts of the European power sector do not have.
I think the fundamental point there is to be realistic about their expectations, or managing investors' expectations, but also making sure that their products are in line with the client demand, in the sense that economics, GP economics have had to change and be corrected to really realign with the expectations for returns, but also ensure that there is a high level of transparency in the way funds are governed and the level of communication and reporting with investors.
Equity market turmoil makes IPOs difficult, if not impossible. Debt market turmoil makes putting any leverage into deals very difficult. And now that might not be affecting, let's say, the venture capital space directly in terms of making an investment. It does make selling companies to an ex-owner very tricky.
So I think that at the end of the day, what counts is that you are able to bring or show returns and build value to them. The usual stuff doesn't change much.
The best people make the best money. So if you have a strong focus on good teams that can scale, then that will help you give good quality. Good quality is what LPs, especially pension funds and experienced insurance companies and family offices, what they like to see. They want a stable 25-year or 20-year yield, and that's produced by good assets.
Transparency. Everything goes for transparency. What we try to do is involve our LPs in our investment decisions. I mean, they don't have a right to take part in the investment decision, but we open our books basically. These are the projects we look at. That's the pipeline. That's the process we are in with a specific project. That's the due diligence results we have done. That's why we decide to invest or not to invest.
The political environment has a lot of impact about the clean tech, because part of the market is regulated and we need to anticipate those trends when making investment. Obviously, we try to avoid too regulated sectors, so we try to invest in companies that have a self-sustainable business model.
The political agendas have certainly very much helped our clean energy strategies. Certainly from the perspective of waste infrastructure in the UK, certainly solar infrastructure in the UK, solar infrastructure on the continent. It's the political agendas that has to a large extent driven what we're looking to do.
Onshore wind is one of the most near to break-even renewable technologies there are, and we're already hearing that there are places around the world where onshore wind is now very profitable without any subsidy whatsoever, and I think we're close to that point here in the UK, and the digression in tariffs that we're proposing under the renewables obligation anticipates that.
Political environment, I think, in three ways. Essentially, one is, of course, there's political changes and turmoil and sovereign debt issues, etc., surrounding that. So we tend to look at opportunities that aren't subsidy-driven, aren't directly subsidy-driven. So that's one way. Another way is we tend to interact and have people on advisory boards that are very well politically connected to be able to better assess which way the political climate may be going.
Until recently, I would have invested in this universe through funds investments, and I noticed now that family offices and even more institutional investors are looking for investing directly into this asset class, so bypassing funds and looking really for the assets and invest directly into these solar plants and wind plants. So for me, this means also a change in choosing the assets and making the selection and looking for direct investments rather than making a classical due diligence on a fund.
I think that exiting is actually the only real area in which we are affected by this financial moment. We are neither affected in terms of sector, we are actually encouraged in terms of buying because you can buy at very good prices, but exiting I don't think is the right moment. If exiting in this moment, as I think it is giving up value, I don't think we'll be exiting in 2012. We just have to wait.
And in terms of the renewables, I mean, obviously it is self-evident the renewables are going through a difficult time. I mean, they still seem to be amazingly resilient.
People who get awards because they've made so many investments in a year, I always have to laugh because that's actually the easy part. Right? It's easy to give people money, right? It's hard to get it back, right? So I think that's the real, to me, that's the real proof of the pudding at the end of the day is, did we invest in the right companies? And the proof is, you know, were you actually able to exit at a profit?
Well, I mean, this one in particular is great because you've got quite a range of LPs who are interested and active, and some of them are just curious and learning still. And of course, you've got the GPs who are in the trenches doing the work, and some of them are doing really well, others are still finding their way. But the quality of information, the opportunity for LPs to learn something about an area that, you know, it's more technical than a lot of the other areas in private equity. So it's very valuable for us to be able to have this kind of interaction and learning opportunity.
I think this is very important for maintaining the network, hearing about the last trends in the industry, being regulatory trends or trends in technology which is being used, things in pricing, hearing about people think, investors think, what GPs want to do and react to LP demand. And especially this conference is pretty much focused on this subject of renewable energy, which makes it very valuable to attend because you really see people who are very interested in this asset class.
Oh, I think events like this are a fantastic opportunity to get out on a bite and see other GPs, but more importantly, see LPs. We obviously work very closely with the LPs that are in the fund, but it's always great to meet other LPs who are interested in the space, folks that we maybe haven't seen since the last event. So it's a fantastic event. I think it's very well run, and I think the invite list and the people you have here are exactly the type of folks we want to see. So we're very happy to show up every year. We think it's a great event.